Hello, everybody. I'm glad to welcome you to the daily highlights of Falling Walls in the Berlin Science Week. Glad to have you joining us. My name is Astrid Frohloff. I'm a German TV moderator and journalist, and I have the pleasure to lead you through the highlights. In the next hour, we will give you an overview about our highlights, which are coming up in the next 24 hours here in this program. And in the studio, I'm joined by Felix Rundl, the Executive Director of Falling Walls. He's the one who is running everything. He knows everything what's going on, and you have the best overview, Felix. Are you pleased so far with the summit?
Hi, Astrid. Yes, we had a very good second day. We had a lot of engaged panel discussions, presentations, creative workshops, and I really enjoyed looking into the circle tables on the circular economy, on COVID-19 vaccines, which was very interesting. And we had one on CERN and what might be the next big science machine. So that was great. And a popular favorite was an evening show on real or fake science, a science show for the critical thinking, where you had to guess which science stories were true and which were fake. So that got a lot of positive response on social media as well.
We will highlight what is coming up next in a couple of minutes. But first of all, let's talk about our highlight, which is coming tomorrow. These are the winner sessions, right?
Yes, that's correct. So Falling Walls, we were looking for breakthroughs of the year since May, and we were spreading a call for nominations all over the world. We got a lot of nominations, more than 900 from 111 countries. And so what you can find now on our website are 600 finalist videos of all the finalists in the broadest spectrum of scientific disciplines that explain the breakthroughs that they're working on. And what we see tomorrow, starting tomorrow and the next days, on each day we will show 2 winner sessions. And tomorrow this will be the categories Life Sciences and Emerging Talents. These sessions will broadcast and showcase the best 10, the top 10 in each category. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, talk to you later. Thank you so far, Felix. Let's first have a look at one of our speakers who is contributing to our program. It is Susanne Wegman. She is a leading scientist in neuroscience. Hello, Mrs. Wegman. Nice to have you joining us.
Hello.
You are heading your own research group at the German Center for Neurodegenerative Diseases, such as Alzheimer, a widespread disease. Could you please outline what is it that fascinates and motivates you to investigate these diseases?
Of course. I mean, many aspects of the brain are very fascinating to me and other researchers. And I think trying to understand the complexity of the processes in the brain challenges our own brain capacity. And this challenge kind of drives me and others to do brain research. Myself, I'm very fascinated by how small molecular changes, so molecules like proteins and nucleic acids, how small changes in these building blocks can actually lead to detrimental effects in the brain that then cause memory loss and personality changes. My focus in my science is on a protein called tau. And tau is a protein that helps the nerve cells to stabilize their long extensions in the normal brain. But in Alzheimer's disease and other related diseases, it starts to aggregate and actually kills the nerve cells. How it does that, we don't really know. And we are working hard to lift the secret, actually.
Mm-hmm. Let's understand which other branches of science could benefit from your work, and how do you actually include interdisciplinary perspectives in your work as well?
So in my beliefs, bridging disciplines is a huge opportunity for us to accelerate Alzheimer's disease and other research areas. And I think the future of science is actually in collaborative and interdisciplinary research. Myself, I'm also an interdisciplinary researcher because my background is actually in biotechnology and biophysics of molecules. And only 8 years ago, in 2012, I went to the US, to Boston, to join Brad Hyman and his lab to work at Massachusetts General Hospital and Harvard Med School on Alzheimer's disease. So that's when I got engaged with the disease. And since 2 years, I'm now back here in Berlin, having my own group and doing a kind of hybrid research. So we are using biochemistry, biophysics, but also looking in human brain samples and using mouse models of the disease to tackle the questions that we are having. To come to your other question, how we basically feed in other branches of science, I think, so since we are operating at the interface of basic science and translational science for therapy development, we are feeding with our results and ideas into drug development and therapy development. And on the other hand, my team and I were getting inspiration from all kinds of other science fields. So I think it's important to, in order to develop an interdisciplinary approach, you have to be always alert about what's going on in other research. So that manifests, for example, that I'm currently reading up on new technologies, on other research fields like cancer biology at the moment, or genomics and protein biophysics, and so on and so on.
Mm-hmm. What are the technologies which could push the next breakthrough forward in this field?
If I would know this, I would get funding and get all the best people to work on this. But until then, I think, or I believe that actually technology, the new technologies evolving can bring us quite forward, because they open new pathways and new views on the old problem, Alzheimer's disease. So in particular, I think we need new disease models. New disease models, going away from mouse models a bit, because on other animal models, because it becomes quite clear that they are not really mimicking the human brain, surprisingly or not. Mm-hmm. And I think new disease models could be, or that are emerging and important are, for example, human-derived stem cell systems, such as organoids or so-called mini brains, that can bring us in an in vitro dish forward in this. And on the therapy side, I think for therapeutic approaches for inherited diseases, there's definitely the new gene therapy tools that are developed are very important and promising to get into human diseases for inherited diseases. And for spontaneous occurring Alzheimer's disease and other dementia diseases, I think we have to move towards more holistic combinatorial diseases, not just tackling one aspect of the disease, but the whole thing.
Mm. Well, it seems these kind of diseases are a very complex problem. What are the key factors for these diseases? Did you find new factors?
So we found some interesting, more biophysical factors that could open up a new research area. So since we work on molecules, what is, I think, also a very interesting finding in the last decade is that a lot of external factors are triggering dementia, or at least increase the risk for dementia. So, for example, it matters what you eat, how much you move, how much stress you have. That all influences your brain and your risk for Alzheimer's and dementia. The digestive system, as an example, is connected to the brain through the gut-brain axis. And with that, your gut microbiome, so what you have in your stomach, is actually influencing your brain function. Mm-hmm. This is a very interesting, quite new field which is emerging now. We also know now that cardiovascular system fitness is really helping your brain to maintain for a longer time its function. So that means you have to have good nutrition, you have to move a lot, walk the stairs instead of taking the elevator, and do not smoke, no too much alcohol, and no bad nutrition. Even pollution, air pollution, is making an impact on your brain. Mm-hmm. And I think with those easy to change habits, we can already improve our brain function.
For the Berlin Science Week, you have chosen a quite unusual way to communicate your topic. You are hosting a short theater play, followed by a discussion. Why is that?
So I first want to state it's not really my idea. So I'm just got sucked into this, and I really like the idea. That's why I'm taking part in this. Mm-hmm. So the idea for the play, Du sollst den Wald nicht vor dem Hasen loben, is by Jörn Klare, the piece. And the idea came from Christa Müller, who is a retired actress who was inspired by the piece when she saw it and wanted to play it herself, in part to challenge her own aging brain, which I find very interesting approach for this. And the other main person in this is the director, of course, France Damian, who set that very nicely, this interesting piece, into a living room setting. So it becomes very approachable for people. And the story is about a mother who loses her memory, and then there's this daughter who has all these like questions about the past. And yeah, I think you should all see it. It's a very, very interesting play.
Yeah, it sounds very inspiring. Thank you so much, Susanne Wegman, for this interview. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Well, as we have learned, food has an impact on neurodegenerative diseases. We want to introduce to you now a scientist who is focusing on food consumption, which is one of the most influential factors to our health. Stefan Becker-Sonnenschein, he is a representative of the Global Food Summit, a think tank that wants to envision the future of food production and consumption in a cradle-to-grave approach. Let's learn more about his work.
The Global Food Summit is a German organization dedicated to sustainable food production. At its annual conference, it brings together representatives from food research and production, as well as other driving forces.
My name is Stefan Becker-Sonnenschein and I'm running the Global Food Summit. The Global Food Summit is this year focused on bioeconomy and food for an urban society. We are a think tank and we are an interface between science, companies, startups, politics, and naturally also media.
In order to meet the growing demand for food in an increasingly densely populated world, creative solutions are needed. Food should be easily produced, highly nutritious and cost-effective, like algae.
Our contribution is to make an interpretation of the political agenda and how it fits into a roadmap of transformation. If you look at space, how is food being produced in space in the future? It's a closed circular economy, food economy. And so the learnings here have to be looked at. What does it mean if we run these learnings here on Earth?
Reshaping the economy from a fossil-based one to a sustainable one based on renewable resources.
If we are striving for a global sustainable recycling economy, we must be able to measure and compare in a standardized way the new methods that we want to implement in our production. These measurements are not yet defined in a way that we can reliably say that they are contributing positively to the Sustainable Development Goals. So this is one very big question that we have to solve. How do we measure a sustainability approach in bioeconomy? And the second big question which has to be solved is when we talk about bioeconomy in urban foods, how can we run this paradigm shift from a linear production process into a society and economy that accepts that waste products are being recycled and reused also in food. So these are the two biggest problems that we have to work on.
The Global Food Summit acts as an impulse-giving innovator to accelerate the change towards a circular economy. The bioeconomy approach is crucial for this transformation, turning away from a fossil economy to sustainable solutions that biotechnology offers, using cells, bacteria and other organic material on industrial scale.
Well, we believe that the bioeconomy approach will bring the greatest transformation to Earth that has happened since the industrialization in the last 200 years. So with our work, we want to create or contribute with a roadmap into the sustainable future and support as many ideas and companies and scientists helping to provide solutions to get into this bioeconomic thinking in the future. These things we are going to look at our performance on the 4th of November between 10 and 1 o'clock.
So the next topic in our program we would like to highlight has nothing to do with food, but with feelings. To be more precisely, with empathy. And I would like to talk about this with Yossi Hasson. He is a social psychologist for social change at the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, director of research at Accor. Hello, shalom, nice meeting you.
Shalom, nice to meet you.
Together with his colleague Einat Amir, who is a scientist and an artist, he has conducted a most interesting life experiment to try to increase empathy between different groups. And my first question is, can you talk a little bit about empathy? How do you define empathy, actually?
Yeah, it's a good question. So empathy involves sharing and understanding the emotions and situation of others. So when a friend of mine shares a sad story, I would feel a bit of his sadness. And if this friend is angry about something, I would feel part of this anger as well. So the ability to share and understand others is fundamental and important for human interactions because it leads us to care for each other.
And how did your interest in this field and this topic emerge? What is fascinating for you about this?
Yeah, so actually what is most fascinating is the fact that although empathy is important, we find that people tend to feel more empathy toward people from their own group and less empathy toward people from other groups. And this phenomena called intergroup empathy bias, and it becomes a barrier in promoting intergroup relation. This is true almost in any context, between ethnic groups, religious groups, national groups, and political groups. And you can find this barrier in almost any country. You can think about conservatives and liberals in Germany, Jews and Arabs in Israel, or Christian and Muslim in the United States, for example.
Mm-hmm. And Yossi, can you explain what is the topic of and the focus of your research, and what impact can it have on societies?
Yes, so my research tried to understand the mechanism, actually what drives people to feel empathy or to avoid empathy in intergroup context. And by understanding this mechanism, I try to develop psychological interventions to overcome those barriers and to promote empathy between groups. And the reason I'm doing it is because I believe that by finding a way to increase empathy between groups, we can create a better society. So by increasing empathy, we'll be able to reduce negative attitudes, discrimination and violence between groups, and also try to increase pro-social behavior and solidarity between groups.
That's interesting. Yossi, can we talk about the event you are offering at the Berlin Science Summit? The title of your session is "Believing Empathy is Unlimited." Can you give us a preview into what happened during the experiment that made you conclude this?
Yeah, of course. So in the last few years, Einat Amir and I have been developing an innovative concept that combines live performance art and social psychology experiment that aim to alter, to change people's basic assumption about the limitation of empathy. So in this collaboration between art and psychology, it's been done through a framework of theater performance that attract audience of hundreds that also act as participants in empathy experiment, and they have the opportunity to interact with people from their own group and other groups. And what we find is that when people tend to believe that empathy is limited, okay, that they cannot feel empathy toward many peoples, they keep their empathy to their own group and they avoid feeling empathy toward other groups. But in our experiments and actually performance, we challenge this belief and we make them believe that empathy is unlimited. And what we find is when we change this belief, people become more empathetic toward others and even engage in more pro-social behavior toward others. And this concept has been tested and conducted in the United States, in Israel, and we hopefully try to do the same in Germany in half a year, trying to increase empathy between the general community and the Muslim community.
Well, thank you very much, Yossi Hasson, for this interview. We're looking forward to your session. It's a great way to learn more about your own empathy. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Back to you, Felix. You have mentioned earlier when we talked the circle tables in our program, which is definitely one of our highlights. Can you give us an overview about what we can expect in the next 24 hours?
Sure. We've got a couple of great circle tables coming up. And what's great about the circle tables is really that you can be there when the top minds of industry, research, policy, and media discuss the latest trends and developments in the big picture in science and society. And the motto, or basically the main thread that we developed for this year is the question, how do we get out of this crisis stronger together and more resilient? And so we have 2 circle tables coming up tomorrow, and the first one is called Powering Climate Neutrality, the Future of Hydrogen. And this is all about transitioning from our current fossil fuel-based or fossil energy-based economy to a greener economy, and a strong candidate for that is hydrogen. And what's being discussed in this very high-level panel is how we can not only use hydrogen as an energy carrier, but really imagine the entire value chain that could create a new hydrogen industry and a hydrogen economy for us. The second circle table is also tomorrow at 4 p.m. and this is related to yesterday's circle table on COVID-19 vaccine research. This time it's about distribution. Once we have a good candidate for a vaccine, whichever country gets it first, what do they do with it? Do they only use it for their own population? Do they share it with others? What kind of tensions can that create on a political context, on a geopolitical context? Very interesting panel, and I very much recommend watching this.
Okay, thank you so far, Felix. And before we will continue talking about more sessions and topics in our program, I would like to highlight something else, something everybody of us would like to have so badly, and this is luck. Changwei Liu is Associate Professor of Strategy and Behavioral Science at ESMT Berlin. His research is focusing on leadership, success, and luck. And one of the most interesting questions we can ask ourselves about leaders is if they deserve the position they achieved. Did they make it to the top through their own merit, or were they just the lucky ones? Changwei Liu is trying to find some answers, and here's a short video.
Hi, I'm Changwei Liu. I'm an associate professor at European School of Management and Technology in Berlin. And I was educated in University of Cambridge. And since my PhD time 10 years ago, my research topic is always centering around the role of luck and its implication for business and society. Probably say everyone may have their own definition of luck. And to me, it's really just that something unexpected or random happened to us, but it also brings very significant consequence, good or bad. If it's good, and then we call it we're lucky, and if it's bad, and then we're unlucky. The definition of success is context dependent and individual dependent, right? I teach in ESMT, a business school, so many people will define success like business performances. And the relation between success and luck is really a complicated one, and actually that's the focus of my research. To what extent we can attribute a success to their skill, intrinsic quality, or their effort, or to being at the right place at the right time. That is luck. For example, for business practitioners, my research question has implication for them, because then they have to decide to what extent they should reward their high performing employees, or to what extent they should imitate their rivals' best practices. One of the great challenges I think my research program can contribute is really try to provide some remedy to the social inequality we witness in many different modern societies. So the question is really the social inequality, like the richest people, whether they deserve all the wealth they obtained. If it's really like based on their investment insight, for example, and their effort, of course, then they deserve. But my research findings suggest that, well, if you're talking about the richest, a lot of factors beyond their control matters a lot. And then it implies that we should probably adjust the tax policy and also redistributed policy. But this is going to be very, very challenging, of course. So it needs more and more rigorous evidence to support these policy changes. So I would say this will be my next grand challenge based on my research program. I would like to think some of my research finding and possible insight can help change the world. And I think the two main things I focus on is the implication of luck for business and also societies. So on business, I really try to design a policy or design a way to help organization to promote and reward the right person rather than reward some people for their good luck or bad luck. On the other hand, the implication of luck for society is also really important because social inequality is huge in many societies, and many of the wealthiest people or the most powerful people, they may not deserve all this attention they got. And my research finding can suggest when and to what extent this redistributive policy should be designed to attenuate the negative consequences introduced by social inequality.
Well, Felix, I'm definitely lucky to have you on my side since you can show us more not to miss highlights.
Yeah, that's right. Pleasure is all mine, Astrid. One of the grand challenges we're facing on a global scale is the imminent biodiversity crisis. That's a very big topic. We are tackling here with a program by the Leibniz Institute for Zoo and Wildlife Research. It's called Conservation Heroes in Your City, and what it tries to show you is that almost everywhere there are people, conservation heroes, that are working against this very alarming trend. And what you can learn here is what's being done in Berlin in science, and also related to the translation of their research to society. So this is a great and very important event here. The second one is also about cities in a different way. It's about the sustainable digitalization in urban areas by three great institutes: the Einstein Center for Digital Future, Alexander von Humboldt Institute for Internet and Society, and the Weizenbaum Institute. And they got together to discuss in three workshops topics around urban digitalization, smart neighborhoods, data governance, and participation in these processes. The third highlight that I brought is, again, a quantum topic, and this one deals with the future and challenges in quantum technologies. This is curated by Rainer Platt, who's one of the top-level experts internationally on quantum science and quantum technologies, and this will cover a lot of the future perspectives on quantum, so definitely also a topic not to be missed today.
Yeah, and we should not forget to mention our calendar function, which is great. If you want to put a note, to stick a note in your calendar, just use this function and you'll get a reminder for all the sessions.
That's right, yeah, and to show more of the diverse programs in the Berlin Science Week in the next days. Today, right after this, we have a colloquium on single cells and single cell analysis by the Bundesanstalt für Materialforschung. This is for material research. We have another cluster event on catalysis, how to use catalysis for a new green chemistry, and another more expert topic, more on the expert side, is on protonation dynamics and protein function. This is also about the dance of the proteins. And well, this is more towards a lay audience and a younger audience. The physics of flight in the Little Prince world. This is targeting K-12 participants, their parents, and the general public. And you can learn the fundamentals of flight with just a page of paper. In relation to that, we have tomorrow the Mathematics show that brings mathematical principles and learning in a fun magic show with Steve Sherman, the math magician. And last but not least, this is an event by the GitLab, in a series of GitLab, and it's about the future of medicine and life sciences technologies, but looking back into the history of medicine with one of the prominent historians of medicine, Cornelius Bock.
Well, we see it's not only a wide range of topics, it's also a wide range of formats, right? Different styles, games, webinars, discussions, lectures. You find everything.
That's right. It's a diversity like we've had never before. People, the organizers have become really creative in finding new formats for the digital world.
Okay, thank you so much. Did you bring anything else? No, for today, that was it for today. So then we have now same procedure as every day, Felix. We will get a nice short story by German photographer Herlinde Kölbel. Here she is. She is one of the leading photographers, an outstanding woman. She did documentary movies as well. And she is fascinated by science. And this is also the title of her new book and her exhibition. You talked to her, you did interviews with her. Can you tell a bit about this?
Yes, well, she traveled all over the world to visit prominent scientists, Nobel laureate, but also emerging scientists like the one we are seeing today. Well, not even emerging, she's a very prominent scientist herself, but on the younger side. So yeah, Herlinde really gets these stories out of people and also wants to make scientists more relatable and take them out of the lab and into everyday life scenery. So I'm looking forward to this one.
Okay, so let's get her story.
Linda, we are looking at the portrait of a young Nigerian-born researcher, Tolula Oni. She's an epidemiologist at the University of Cambridge and is looking at the intersection of public health and urban development. What was it that you found fascinating about her?
You know, she is born in Nigeria, so her preconditions are not very good. But her mother always told her, even though you're a girl, you can reach everything. Don't accept any borders, and you are smart and you are tough too. So she told me, you know, in a certain way, I'm stubborn and hardworking. So I really could study medicine. But very soon I realized that I only can help just one person than the other one. So that's not enough. I would see and like to have the bigger picture and change to urban health research, and then worked in South Africa and then went back to London again. And now she is really changing in a certain way the research and always try to look for a bigger picture, not only for a small one.
So that was it for today. Thank you very much for joining me, Felix. It was a great pleasure having you here in the studio. We will be back tomorrow with our highlights. Tomorrow at 1 o'clock. It's going to be a short edition because then we're going to have the winners sessions. We have two categories, life sciences
and emerging talents.
And emerging talents tomorrow. So looking forward to present you our top 10 winners in each category. So hope you tune in tomorrow. Thank you very much for your attention today. Have a nice day. Goodbye and auf Wiedersehen from Berlin.